Lately, I've been having the same conversation with a lot of different people. It's not about money, it's not about real estate, it's about freedom. Just the past, honestly, like 7 days, I've been getting phone calls from past colleagues, former coworkers, friends of friends. And, part of the conversation starts with, what is it that you do, with house flipping and different things. But it always really leads to the same end goal in the conversation, which is how can I create more freedom in my life? So, and what is this freedom? It's more time with family. It's more control over their schedule, and it's more options for the future. The ability to stay home when your wife is sick and help take care of her. The ability to celebrate maybe your cousin's birthday or sister's anniversary or something kind of random and just show up for them. I had this talk with my son recently, and I said, it's important on someone's birthday to to really show up for them or send them something on their birthday. It's too easy to tell somebody, "Oh, hey, happy birthday. Let's celebrate this weekend." Basically saying like, "Hey, when it's convenient, let's do something," versus like, "Hey, you knew it was my birthday. You knew it was coming up. You rather planned ahead or you didn't." And I feel like that stuff matters, and I'd love to be um, able to show up for as many people as I can on their special day or special event or whatever it is. Um, and if I'm strapped to my job or strapped to something where I can't free myself up to do that, I'm going to limit those opportunities. So this conversation naturally leads into something that I've been working on recently. And I guess I just want to sort of make this episode a mix between creating that freedom in your life. What does that look like for you guys? What's the next step there? And how am I doing that in a way that maybe you guys can not necessarily copy paste for you, but understand the concepts of creating time and making the biggest impact in the decisions and choices and the time that you make in the limited time we have. So, So right now I've been digging into some opportunities locally, some opportunities to develop some land, to flip some houses. This is how I make money. The ones I want to bring in with you guys are when you can find an opportunity where someone is pinched in time. They have to sell this thing by a certain amount of time or there's a pinch somewhere else. It's a house that has some emotional baggage to it. And the owner is having a really hard time completing the project or even going to the house. This stuff happens all the time. That's why real estate will always have deals, if you want to call them deals, but opportunities, because there's always a problem somewhere tied to this person's house or land. So if you can position yourself in a way that you're able to help the person in a timely way by solving their problem, usually by buying their house in cash or land, whatever in cash, then, there's money to be made. I had a conversation with my son today and I asked him, "Hey, Moses, when do you make money? Do you make money when you buy property or when you sell property?" And of course, this was a setup question because the 9-year-old answer was, "Dad, you make it when you sell." And I said, "No, you make your money when you buy it based on how much you buy it for and, the options that you can have by buying it low enough." So, of course, I got on a soapbox for about probably 3 to 5 minutes. I felt like I had his attention. He pulled up a little stool and sat down while I was making waffles. So that made me feel good as a dad. And I just walked through that idea of, the ability to not offer something too low where the person gets offended or doesn't even try to counter, but not too high that puts yourself in a bad position with, potentially losing money if something goes wrong along the way. So, so for you guys and the conversations that I've had with, these other individuals, I really feel like what it boils down to is figuring out your target and really understanding the importance of that target, also known as sort of start with your why. Somewhere out there, there's a saying on like the worst thing you could do is hit a bullseye on a target that is the wrong target. It's the wrong whole platform. You were aiming at something that wasn't really what you wanted or wasn't a good thing to be striving for. So, so what that usually looks like is, I want to get a certain amount of a paycheck, or maybe it's I want to try to scale down from 50 hours to 40 hours. So I would say figuring out that type of question, what is it that I am striving for, really helps define how to change your mindset and to make some different choices. And that's another thing that I've kind of known, but it's helpful for me to, I think, tell people this, because I've been told it and I understand it a little bit more now than I did a couple of years ago. And that is, don't expect a different outcome if you're not making different choices or thinking a different way. And there is value in, staying the course and being steady Eddie. But how could you expect to create, a significant amount of margin or freedom in your life by showing up and doing the same thing that you've done the last, 8 years, 10 years? So sometimes you gotta, take some risks. And I hope that you can hear and look at what I'm doing with my life and be strengthened and motivated to say, I want a little more freedom in my life, like Kenny. Now, have I figured everything out? No. There's still struggles and stresses and daily dependence on the Lord. And I hope that my life is always characterized that way. Even if I hit it big and, make some awesome deal or build an awesome business, I always want to stay in a position where I'm dependent on the Lord to be in control, which He is. I think there is an illusion of control that we have in our lives. And I would just, no matter if I'm making, $10 an hour, or if I'm making $1,000 an hour, or it's all passive, or, whatever, the ability to be generous and to be humble and dependent are how we as Christians should be living. Let's see if there's anything else I want to talk about today. Guys, it's Thursday night. We have dealt with some family struggles this week, some sickness. Our youngest daughter, who's 8 months old, has had some skin hives that worry us as parents. What is this? And it's just been one of those very tiring weeks. We've had some good victories on a few work meetings. I always get excited about submitting offers on properties and starting conversations with people. Uh, so in that way, I think it's been an excellent week, but haven't hit the gym as frequently as I would have liked, from waking up throughout the night with my wife, or just trying to support her in the early mornings, or, our other kids are getting up in the middle of the night. So I know you dads out there understand this. And yeah, I wanted to show up tonight and say, what I'm working on. I want to be as faithful as I can in the different things that I'm walking in. First and foremost to the Lord, second to my family, and then third to my people, my rather clients or listeners or partners. And in that way, I'm very thankful for how this week has gone. So what is it you guys need to be working on to create more freedom in your life? If I can be a resource for you, message me. I have some passive investing opportunities. If someone is looking to add more passive income your way through investing into apartments, that is my business at East West Capital that I founded, and have brought in actually some new investors just this week into a few deals. So I've been excited about that. And then if you're just trying to find some more margin or some more freedom through what's your next steps in your business, I'm a fix and flip guy. That's what I'm building right now. But if I can help in any way, let me know. Last week, I put out a little link toward an investor guide. If you're someone that has a little curious about how group investing works, if you felt on the outside looking in, trying to figure out a little bit of what this group investing is or how it works, it's called syndication, but more or less a fancy word for just group investing. But there are some really awesome ways to use these big projects, these developments or multifamily, value add takedowns, where you basically get to sit in the owner's seat of this business play without doing any of the work. Um, Trusting other people with your money and using your capital into alternative investments like apartment development or apartment building, flipping. It's a great thing. It's something I didn't know about a couple of years ago, and I've been in this space now for about 3.5 years. So, love to hold your hand through that and answer whatever questions you might have. I'll put a link in the show notes for that guide, and there's a way to schedule a call with me on that guide. And guys, let me close out with this verse found in Mark 8:36. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? Guys, keep your heart and your mind on our Father. Let him lead you, and the things that you are striving toward, make it a worthy goal that our Father in heaven will one day say to us, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Take care.